Hello and a warm welcome to our webinar today. My name is Petra Schütz from Divya and I will be your technical support for this session. Before I hand over to the speakers, a few small technical notes. The webinar will be recorded, but don't worry, this doesn't apply to you. It's just a recording of the presentation and the audio feed, which will be made available to you after the webinar as well. You may have questions during the webinar. If you look at your control panel, you will see that you can enter your questions there. Please use this opportunity at any time during the webinar. You can as well raise your hand if you would like to ask your question directly to the panelists. We'll look for a good moment and I can allow you to unmute your microphone then. If it doesn't fit within the webinar, we have some time at the Q&A session at the end of the webinar. So yeah, we are looking forward to a lot of your questions and your participation as well. One more thing, in case the content appears too small to you to follow on your screen, you have the option to go to the full screen mode. That helps already, or you can make our videos a little bit smaller. And if all of that doesn't help, you can scroll into the presentation with your mouse. I think that's all from my side. I'm looking forward to the webinar today, and I'll hand over to you, Peter.
Thank you very much, Petra, and good morning to all of you that have joined us today to talk about sovereignty, talking about sovereign cloud for this webinar. We've been looking very much forward for today, for giving you this presentation. As Petra mentioned, no reason to take a lot of screenshots during the webinar. You will get the recording after this session as well. And we also hope that you will actually ask us a question during the session in order for us to give you the best knowledge and takeaways away from today. But I have the pleasure of having two of my colleagues with me today. Allow me to introduce, first of all, Klaus Kofod. Klaus is Managing Director for T-Systems in Northern Europe, which consists of the UK and Nordics combined into one region. Klaus joined some years ago T-Systems and have an extensive background from the cloud transformation agenda, and I have experience from among more Accenture and Gemini as well. And then we also have invited Anders Lausen. Anders is part of our international cloud practice and work on a daily basis as what we call cloud strategist advisor, meaning advising our customers on their cloud journeys and their options hereof. Anders also have a long and extended experience within the IT industry, working for some of the major corporations. Myself, my name is Peter. I'm responsible for our marketing in Northern Europe, and I have the pleasure of being the moderator for today. So just to give you a little bit of a snapshot of what we have prepared for you today, we're going to spend a little bit about who we are, who are T-Systems, just to set that. And then we're going to talk about the geopolitical situation. Where are we? What have happened recently? And we tie that into market experience. What is it that we see out there in the market when we talk with customers? And then it is about time to talk about what is sovereignty actually. How do we define it? We share our point of view and how that is matching with the solutions and portfolio we have. Then we're going to do a deep dive on Open Telekom Cloud, our public sovereign cloud here in Europe. We're going to address some customer cases, talk a little bit about sovereign AI, why that is paramount to have focus on as well. And then we're going to end the session about how to get started. And then we have finally 4 recommendations for you when we start here. And then there will be, as Petra mentioned, a Q&A in the end, where we will try to follow up with all the incoming questions. But first, we were a little bit curious sort of to see here with our audience today, where are you when it comes to exploring alternatives for sovereign clouds and the like? So we prepared a little bit of a poll for you. So if you would be so kind to answer, I think we prepared 2 questions for you to indicate where you are, and then we can have a look at the results and see if you are actively exploring at the moment, or is this something that you are only at the consideration stage. Giving a few seconds for people to answer here. All right, so I see most of you are currently exploring and some are considering a bit. Okay, interesting enough. Petra, could you also bring up the other question too? Because for those of you that particularly are exploring at the moment, another interesting question would be, so what are actually the important criteria that you are looking for in a European-based cloud alternative? Okay, I see the dials are changing quite a lot here. But security and compliance is very much important. All right. That looks good. Yes. Interesting. And that is definitely a topic that we will, Anas will indeed articulate this and when we go through our Open Telecom Cloud solution here. So very good. Thank you very much, all of you, for your input. Okay, so I will kick off and then I will hand over to Klaus in just a minute. But just to set the scene, who are we? T-Systems is an integral part of the Deutsche Telekom group. That means we are part of the world's largest telecom operator. We are one of the strongest brands in the world. And we actually have worldwide more than 300 million customers that we also are protecting from a cybersecurity point of view in T-Systems. So we are a very large group with around 200,000 people worldwide. Zooming in a bit on T-Systems, then we are a subsidiary, 100% owner of Deutsche Telekom. We are a pure B2B IT service player. Just reached 4 billion in revenue of euros last year, and we have over the past years had a very positive growth track here as well. We operate 8 security operations centers. As I mentioned, they are part of this element that actually is securing the plus 300 million customers that we have worldwide. So as a company, you could say we have what we call some box of horizontal solution. It comes all the way from cloud, digital, and advisory. We can help customers both to plan, build, and run. But because we are an integrated part of Deutsche Telekom, we are also one of the few that actually are able to, as a one-stop shop, to deliver everything from connectivity and all the way up through the stack. So we have our 5 core pillars of horizontal solutions we deliver across industries, but we also have industry-specific solutions tailored for 8 different industries that you can see here. Just as we serve a long range of customers across all these verticals around the globe, you will also find some interesting logos here from the region that we are presenting here in Northern Europe. So what is that make T-Systems a little bit unique? Here, there are many points, but what we're going to talk about today is around digital sovereignty. This is not a new topic for T-Systems. I mean, this is part of our DNA of being a German-based company to have Automosein, as we would say, order in our data and protecting those data of the customers that we serve on a daily basis. So on that note, I think I will hand over the microphone to you, Klaus, to talk a little bit about what is happening out there in the world.
Yes, thank you, Peter. And if you move to the next, you'd say the short version is, of course, it's super exciting times we live in for good and for maybe slightly concerning reasons. You could say in Europe and also definitely in the Nordics, I think we have put a lot of eggs in the left-hand side basket, betting a lot on very strong American technology for very good reasons. In Europe, we've seen more of a, you could say, regulatory approach, making sure we protect the citizens at the end of the day. And you know, if you look at today, we probably have to conclude that in Europe we have underinvested in technology ourselves. And then you have the Asian and the Chinese angle, which is also, you could say, very protective in the sense that technology is used in Asia and especially in China, and both from a hardware and software perspective and data residency, etc. So that in itself is a quite interesting picture. If you then move forward, And maybe the slide will change here. I guess we have all seen this. I mean, we have seen things happen that no one could predict. And I think when we meet clients currently, the fact that this incident of shutting down the email for Karim Khan, or even back when access to satellite data for Ukraine started, then people start thinking about what if, and that is basically the question we see a lot of organizations trying to answer. What if XYZ happens, then what? So political pressure is definitely one, and of course from a local perspective, one of the concerns is if Mr. Trump is putting more power behind getting control of Greenland, how may he or may he not use you say the American hyperscalers as a pressure point on specifically. Let's hope we never get to that point, but we have to think the thought through and see what do we do then. If you move to the next, yeah. And as you can see on the left-hand side, Computer World did a survey in Denmark, and of course these numbers will differ depending on country you survey in. But there is a lot of movement now to reevaluate what you have, where, and how you use technology for business purposes. And I think the Draghi report was maybe also a wake-up call to the EU. We've been probably invested, but now we need to step up the game. And across countries, you can now see massive initiatives going on in Sweden with Ericsson and the Wallenberg Foundation now investing in AI gigafactories. We have the Gefion in Denmark as an initiative with the Novo Foundation to create more local capabilities to support the companies and public sector in respective countries. And if you move on, Peter. Then the CIO or CTO challenge is, of course, you have two sides of a storyline here. One is external survey, and the right-hand side is what is it that we have met over the past months. And it is really balancing, of course, cost. We meet clients that went quite aggressive in moving, if not everything, then quite a lot to a public cloud. And now are seeing that, okay, but prices actually increase. So am I using the platform to the fullest extent, getting enough value compared to what I pay? And of course, what is the functionality actually that I need for different types of application areas, as an example? And then the lower left-hand corner around sovereignty has suddenly become increasingly important for obvious and somewhat sad reasons recently. And I can say on the right-hand side, what we have met with clients over the past few months is that's across the region. It's an element of looking at, you could say, cloud strategy version 2.0 or 3.0 to say we need to revisit what is we are using which platform for, because we obviously need to optimize spend to the degree possible. We want to have the right functionality available for the right reasons, for the right, again, application areas or workloads. And of course, certain data and certain applications are more sensitive than others. And that whole view from clients is being revisited. I would say some of you are in financial services. You may also see a different kind of interest from the regulators to understand what are your exit plans, what are your business continuity plans, and are they sufficiently solid to be able to actually navigate if whatever incident you can imagine would happen? Can you actually then run your business tomorrow if you have no access to certain parts of your business? So a lot about finding European solutions, as you also indicated in the poll. and making sure that for certain areas, of course, compliance and adhering to EU regulations is in place, secure platforms, without compromising too much, at least on functionality. As is always. Yeah, I think those dimensions anyone need to have a view on and refresh the view if it's not fresh already, and then of course move into implementation, which can be at different paces. I think with that, I think the microphone will be handed to you, Anders.
Thank you, Klaus. So referring back to the slide that Klaus presented just a minute ago, we have found it useful to look at sovereignty and functionality in three levels. The bottom level, data sovereignty, is, you could ask the question, where is my data? Which is typically what most people think about. But there's the next level, the operational sovereignty, is who controls the access to the data, who is doing the operation of the infrastructure where my data resides. And the last layer of sovereignty is technology sovereignty. And that's who is actually controlling the code that is dealing with my data. So by having these three layers gives a more nuanced view of balancing the three corners of the triangle that Klaus shared just before. And there is an inverse relationship between sovereignty and functionality. The more sovereign you are, it's likely that it'll come at the cost of less functionality. So Peter, if you could take us to the next slide. So this is what we are supporting in the market, and you could say this is what's generally available. And coming back to the sovereignty and functionality, on the far left, we have the hyperscalers. And I don't think there's anyone that's going to argue that the three hyperscalers, they are providing the most information, the most functionality and scalability from not just from a hardware perspective, but also from a geographical perspective. So they are there, and I think they're there to stay, and they do provide a lot of value. Referring to my previous slide, that does come with some degree of technology sovereignty loss or lock-in. I mean, the deeper you go into the native functions of the hyperscalers, the more you will be locked into them. There may be a very good trade-off for that in terms of business value that makes it a perfectly good decision to go that way. But the thing is, when we talk about the cloud strategy 3.0, I think was what was used before, is that we make these decisions with the eyes open, and not just like in the initial cloud wave, it was a little bit uncritical and we moved everything to cloud regardless. This time we need to do it more, think about it a little bit more, and having more nuanced approach. When we talk about the hyperscalers and what we can do in T-Systems in that context, Azure have their own external key management, but for Google and for AWS, we provide external key management where we are the owner and provider of the key management solution. So it's hosted in our data centers. It's under a German contract. So in the event that the FISA 702 or 709, can't remember, or the Cloud Act is invoked by the US, well, they will get the data, but they can't instruct a German company to surrender the keys to that data. So we have this additional layer of protection of your data in the hyperscalers. Specifically, when we talk about Google, we have a special collaboration with them. It's hosted in Germany, and we call it Google Cloud with Sovereign Controls by T-Systems. And what does that entail? Well, it's a carved out part of Google, as I mentioned in the Frankfurt area, where we are doing the logical and physical access management. Google are doing some adjustments to the code, which allows us to look over the shoulders of Google to see what's actually going on that platform. And we will set up the guardrails and ensure that the data is staying in that region of Google. Again, part of this will be supported by a contract anchored in Germany. The next one here, and I'll talk about it shortly, and then I'll do a slightly deeper dive after this slide, is OTC, or Open Telekom Cloud, which is an OpenStack solution, a public cloud solution. But I'll talk about more of that in a minute. Then we have private cloud. We call it future cloud infrastructure, and we have stayed with the investment on and continued the development of private cloud. We think it is a key element in the portfolio of services that any corporation will need to use. It's based on VMware, but we have managed to secure a good deal, and it's not a sort of an unknown fact, but it's largely by the help of our mother company, Deutsche Telekom, who has a good collaboration with Broadcom. We've secured a good agreement on the VMware part, so protecting our clients and ourselves, of course. Of note here, both OTC and the private cloud offering has the possibility of having GPUs as part of the platform in support of sovereign AI solution. And the last one to the far right is a open sovereign cloud, which is a solution that's based on Gartner and on Metal. It's focused entirely on container workloads and for highly secure workloads. As an example, I believe half of Germans' health passports, if you call it that, is hosted on that platform. So it offers a high degree of sovereignty and also a high degree of transparency for those that use it. Moving on to the next slide, Peter. Okay, so Open Telekom Cloud. It is, and it's very un-Danish and un-German to brag, but it is the #1 European public cloud. It is not something that was invented in response to what's happening right now. It'll have its 10th anniversary next year. It's rather big, and it's sovereign. It's built on OpenStack, and it's completely open source. So we are sort of negating the first one, the top tier, the technology sovereignty. The operation is done out of the EU. So then we have the second level of sovereignty, and it's hosted in EU. I'll come back to a little bit about where we have our regions in EU and Europe further on. And being German, we are very focused on being compliant. So we are supporting DORA, BaFin, GXP, and more on that platform. And we have the certificates as well required, whether that's SOC 1, 2, 3, and the German BSI. We have it's called the C5 Type 2 certificate. It's a little nerdy. I'll come back to that. But basically, we have all the certifications required in support of enterprise workloads. Peter, if you will move on.
So Anders, I'm just because we had a question here, so let's just take that. It is actually related to the offering slide we just showcased. There was a question here. I thought you also had an offering with AWS similar to the Google Cloud offering. Based on the European sovereign clouds. At least that is what AWS told us. Is this no longer the case?
It's the AWS sovereign cloud, to my knowledge, hasn't been launched yet, but there are talks, and we are a big partner of AWS. That is correct. Right now, what is available is the external key management. The other thing will come a little later. So
yeah, I think it is in Q4 this year. It is the roadmap for.
yeah.
All right.
Thanks for the
Sorry,
question.
Anders, please continue.
Yeah, no worries. So OTC, as I mentioned, it 10th anniversary next year, and today we have a little bit more than 4,000 clients on the platform. They come from a very varied industries, whether it's financial services, we also see IT services there, public sector, and health and life science. A common denominator is the need for sovereignty on all three levels. In other words, avoiding technology lock-in and ensuring that things are done from within EU. Both in terms of GDPR compliance, but also in terms of protecting IP of some of the companies that's chosen this platform. We also see quite some SaaS providers basing their SaaS offering on OTC, simply to, you could say, to future-proof themselves when it comes to going into the European market and leveraging this sovereignty as part of their services to the clients. All right, Peter, if you could move on. Yeah. So this is the slide that shows our three regions, two within EU. We have one in Germany, we have one in Netherlands, and then within Europe we have one in Switzerland as well. All three regions are dual site data centers with free availability zones in each. Theoretically we could host around 600,000 VMs, depending on the VM size, of course. So it is quite a decent size that we have here, and it scales out quite well. We are experiencing quite a lot of interest from specifically financial industry, but also the public sector right now. So it's being built out as we speak. Yeah. Next slide, please, Peter. So I come back to, we call them the scout marks that we have for the platform, and we have all the main ones. And this is key. I mean, if you're looking for a platform that support enterprise workloads, you need these certifications and the compliance that is provided by the platform. And it's for the entire platform. It's not specific services. So it's all regions and it's the entire platform that is covered by this. And since 2022, all the regions have been running on renewable energy. So that's also a factor that's positive for the platform. Okay, yeah, next slide, Peter. So a lot of people, again, coming back to, okay, so what is this European cloud? Is it worth spending time on? And while we can't compete on the highest level with the American hyperscalers, on a base functionality, we are very comparable, and it's a very full catalog. Our experience is clients coming from the hyperscalers, so identifying workloads that are better hosted on OTC is that if you have experience with either of the hyperscalers, that it's not a big step in terms of reskilling or relearning how to work on Open Telekom Cloud. And I think from a service perspective, we are perhaps a little bit more personal. I think everybody has tried to upload a question on a portal on something, and you may or may not get an answer. I think we are closer to you here in Europe. Next slide to exemplify this, Peter. Okay, so this is not meant to read it, but it's more an illustration that where we have all the three hyperscalers and OTC, and we have the different names and services across the various service areas. So very comparable compared with the hyperscalers. And another thing, I mean, for those out there who's deeply invested into infrastructure as code, I mean, if you build your Terraform templates, it's not a huge task to change the APIs, and we have actually trained an AI to help you perform that task to make the transition from a hyperscaler into OTC easier and more efficient. Klaus, you raised your hand.
Well, it's just when you make comparisons to American hyperscalers, it may smell like we're saying instead of, and that's not the message. This is the leading European supplement in your hybrid cloud and multi-cloud strategy, right? So it's not instead of, but it's in addition to. And the point of showing this is that it's a very mature platform that we have. I think it's important to underline that we're not saying leave your American hyperscalers and put everything. That's not the message, right?
No, absolutely no. I mean, there's no one that comes close to the American hyperscalers when it comes to, you could say, the innovation and what they put into developing their platforms. Not at all. So yeah, thanks for that, Klaus. So this is to highlight that it's not a big transition from an organizational perspective to introduce Open Telekom Cloud as part of your portfolio of offerings. And also, if it's VMware, that's quite straightforward. But if you have invested in Terraform or similar infrastructure as code tools, it's not a difficult journey, and it's one we can help you with doing to make this efficient and painless. Next slide, Peter. Okay. Because another differentiator is that we can do everything from within T-Systems. So there is of course Open Telekom Cloud, but then we can build managed services on top, which means it's a one-stop shop. You don't have to engage with different companies to run this. You can if you want. It's not a lock-in as such, but there is the advantage for, which could be interesting from enterprise workloads, of having one partner who will look after the entire stack for you. And it is easier for someone, you could say, for providing managed cloud services and Open Telekom Cloud. If that comes from T-Systems, the person being in charge of the managed cloud services can actually call the person in charge of the cloud platform. So it's tightly integrated, which provides some advantages as well from a service perspective. And next slide. So I think we talked a lot about, you could say, the bottom two of the triangle that Klaus showed earlier on. The top one was about economy, and Sangenberg has done this study where they have compared on-demand pricing between Open Telekom Cloud and the hyperscalers and some of the other European providers. And this is to show that you might think, looking at this, okay, this is hosted in Europe, built by Europeans, run by Europeans, that it comes at a premium, but actually it doesn't. It's quite competitive. I think that's what we want to say with this one here. So taking this sort of, you could say, a theoretical walk of the platform, I think, Klaus, you want to talk a little bit about how clients have actually used the platform, not as a one-stop shop, but as an integrated part of their portfolio of services.
Yeah, thank you, Anders. Yeah, and now you say the platform because we've been talking about the Open Telekom Cloud, but actually all these examples are say, hybrid approaches because of the individual client's specific needs, right? So you have a major oil and gas company, we can all guess who that is, where part of their hybrid cloud strategy is actually still, and it may seem antiquated, but leveraging a modern private cloud platform, simply because to find an optimum and also operational in an area where they don't need all the functionalities of a hyperscale either. And then you have others. You say Barmer is health insurance in Germany, one of more clients, but in on our very sovereign platform, because you have clients' digital identity running there, and you have their electronic patient data. So that needs obviously to be locked and quite far away from anybody else being able to access that. Around 40 million citizens' data reside on that platform. And what's interesting is you can see a mix here of pharma and health. You can have critical infrastructure like energy, and of course also financial services. And then sometimes we get the question, what about if we have significant data volumes? And the Copernicus case is quite interesting because that is massive amounts of data. It is satellite photos of Mother Earth that is actually available for enterprises and citizens of the EU to basically use for whatever. Insurance companies looking at, should we increase premiums because this is a residential area where flooding is pertinent, or when public sector plan, where will we allow companies or new residential areas to be developed. So a lot of different reasons to put different workloads, different application areas onto different platforms. Yeah, I think that's the key point of this one. And then another way to look at it, and automotive is part of the industries that we work a lot with, and what we see is sort of a way how they go about their cloud strategy, you could say. So again, having a good strong look at what do we put where and why, trying to optimize within the triangle we saw before of cost, functionality, and sovereignty. Significant continued use, obviously, of the hyperscalers, because it just makes a lot of sense, but also a view to actually some of our use cases or application domains we want in a more sovereign setup, that can be to protect IP, to protect confidential data, etc. And then you can do that in different ways, as illustrated on Anna's slide. You can do an external managed key solution on an American hyperscaler, or you can do something that is more European, if you will. And I think this view is from an automotive. We see the same in pharma, and we see the same in financial services, and we see a lot of movement also in public sector, more or less on a daily basis. So I think this is a definite takeaway for you today. Have a look at where you are and why, and consider what you need to do. And Anders, now you have your hand up.
No, I just thought, I mean, we do talk public cloud and that, but I think it's worth mentioning that what Deutsche Telekom has chosen to do with their SAP workload. I mean, our private cloud for SAP is SAP RISE certified. So Deutsche Telekom has a hybrid strategy with Google and private cloud FCI for their SAP platform. And going on RISE at the same time. It's a side mark on this context, but it sort of shows how you can sort of choose the different platforms and build them together to optimize how you execute your workloads.
Yeah. Yeah, and you have part of the journey on the lower right-hand corner that our mothership has been on, and I think a lot of companies are on, where you have a beautiful mix of technologies acquired over a decade or two or three, moving to more modern technologies and sort of cleaning up the legacy, and of course leveraging the innovation and investments in public cloud where possible, and then having certain more sensitive things on other solutions that match or serve that need. And of course, one message here is that we can help you across that spectrum of, you would say, almost no or standard sovereignty to super high confidential, think defense, think personal data, think police kind of protection in that spread, and finding the right optimum there. Yeah. If you move forward, Peter.
Well, indeed, I think it's time to hand the mic over to you, Anders, then, to talk a little bit about sovereign AI.
Okay. Yeah, and it's, well, I mean, the sovereign AI is actually could be an entire session on its own. So we're only going to touch lightly on this, but the EU AI Act is coming into full effect August next year, if I remember correctly. And at least in its current form, there's an awful lot that ends up in the high risk area, which requires considerations when you're planning your strategy for AI. So it's in this context, it is to sort of re-emphasize that when you look at your workload and you want to think about which AI do I use for what, we want to emphasize that there are options to run open AI models, of course the native ones like ChatGPT or Gemini or those cannot be run outside of their environments, but the open large language model certainly can, or you can train your own models, and we have the platforms that support that in a scalable way, similar to other public clouds. I think that this is it's a key consideration. I mean, we know the Draghi report came out. This may influence how the EU AI Act will end up seeing, but we don't know. Right now, it's quite, there's an awful lot, as I mentioned, that ends up in the high risk area that requires a lot of consideration in terms of how you want to apply your AI. And you want to apply AI because there's a lot of business value to be had from implementing AI and leveraging that technology in your businesses. So this is to emphasize there are ways of doing this, and we can also help you automating that the users are using the right AI for the right purpose. In other words, people in finance, they don't take finance stuff and put it into ChatGPT. They can only use your sovereign AI model, whereas it could be marketing and others. For sure, they can use Gemini or other platforms for that, for things that are not company confidential and doesn't contain data that should not be put into an AI model according to the EU AI Act. All right, Peter, you have a comment here?
Yeah, I mean, we have not spent so much time yet, I think, in general discussing this EU AI Act, as you say, Anders, enforcing in full spectrum. August next year. It was actually implemented already in 24, so we had sort of 2 years to get ready for it. I would assume that this will emerge much more as we enter into 2026. But these risk profiles that we're showcasing here on the left, I think, actually, when you look into the definitions, a lot of the different things we're using AI for will naturally fall into the high risk profile. And that means that comes with a lot of requirements from the EU regulations on how you then can use AI for this. Essentially, that is, if you use personal data, like an HR application, right? That there are a lot of specific requirements to this. It also goes into safety components. So if you're a manufacturer and there is a safety component within your product, it even goes for toys to kids, to medical appliances. The list is very long. You also naturally fall under the high risk. So there's a lot of things here to consider. As Anders mentioned, when we start using AI for very good reasons to optimize the business, etc., we have to be aware of all these compliance requirements that are now flooding into us next year. And hence, therefore, these questions that we label up here to the right, they're quite essential actually to consider before you start implementing this with your own business critical data.
And there is a lot of investment going into this area right now, a lot of projects starting up. My feeling when I talk to clients is that they are very much focused on the outcomes, which of course are important. That makes the business case. But this is a parameter that really need to be part of the strategy when you're building your solutions. And I think this is a topic all on its own, but we wanted to highlight it as part of this. And I think this is where I hand back to you, Klaus. How do we get started?
Over to.
So I think, maybe just to reiterate our excitement about Open Telekom Cloud, or OTC as we call it, is not just because it's a family member, but actually also external analysts like ISG and Forrester name us right up there, and definitely the leading European public cloud. So just to underline, this is a mature thing that is not invented yesterday, and you can dive in at your own pace, or as we move forward, there are different ways to get started that we can talk about. If you move forward a bit, Peter. Yeah, I'll do this quickly. Yeah, thank you. So we can of course talk you through the different solutions we have at more detail around the sovereign topic, from managed key solution into how to get started with, for instance, OTC. Part of that will show you and let you touch as well. And then what we work with several clients on is defining proof of concept or building new services. We also see in regulated industries an appetite to refresh the business continuity plans, perhaps use Open Telekom Cloud or one of the other platforms as a place where you have that as your fallback solution, and have certain data and even perhaps applications residing there as well. And then of course a conversation around, so when you refresh your cloud strategy and you can say your solution outcome view, now you have European solutions that you can add to your decision tree, almost to say if then it belongs on a normal hyperscaler, or if this and this and this, then you want to be on a European sovereign cloud. Well, now you have that solution as well, and we're happy to help on input on you redefining your cloud approach. You clicking again, Peter?
Yes, I am. It's coming up.
And I think hopefully you will take away that we are saying be pragmatic, but be on your toes. No platform to rule them all, or said in another way, hybrid. Now you have a strong European answer to plug into your hybrid and multi-cloud approach. And of course, at the end of the day, it's finding that optimum between cost, functionality, and sovereignty that works for your application domain. That will differ across your portfolio, obviously. Don't panic, and don't. I think a lot of companies went cloud first or cloud everything. Maybe are reconsidering that actually that may, for different reasons, not be necessarily the right answer in the next wave. And then, as always, dip your toe, learn, and then scale across the different solutions as you learn. Right? I think those are our key recommendations. The fifth one is, of course, we're happy to help.
Very good. And by that, I think we are coming to the end of our presentation and walking into the Q&A session. If there should be any questions from our participants today, then feel free to type it in here in the tool.
I think I saw one here from Mads Vestergaard about content delivery networks, and that's correct. It's this is one of the areas where we can't compete with the hyperscalers. We would probably be looking to our partner Akamai, which is an American company, I know, for doing these things. But yeah, it's it doesn't have that feature. You're correct, Mads.
But I think again, if your need is a European cloud, then this is by far the strongest one when you talk about Open Telekom Cloud. If need for a certain functionality or service sort of is more important than the fact of being, having the different sovereignty levels, well, then that drives the decision in a different direction than OTC, right?
Yeah. We have a third question here. What sets T-Systems apart from competitors like Stack IT, OVH, and other providers in the sovereignty space?
So let me start, and then Anders, you can continue. So again, if you look at the external unbiased view, we are the most mature solution out there, 4,000 plus enterprise clients. So we have large enterprises that trust our platform, and some of the other names mentioned there. One is, let's just say, very fresh, where to my knowledge it's very few clients, and I think you have to understand the difference between the platforms if they are truly meant for enterprise use with the different services available and as Anders also described, the possibility to get maybe.
And I think
I don't know if you want to add anything, Anders, to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we joked a little bit about talking about the scout marks. So our ISO certifications that we are able to provide the SOC 1, 2, 3 certificates that the data centers are uptime tier 3 plus, and we have the German BSI C5 type 2 certificate as well. I mean, and it's for the platform, it's for the service, it's not individual elements of it. I think this is where that we are differentiating ourselves in terms of maturity to some of the newer players in the market.
Yeah, if I can add to that, Anders, that also goes for the EU Data Act. The platform is actually also certified in being compliant with that. I have a question, Anders, also. I think I will address it to you because you sort of were presenting this analysis around the pricing at the hyperscalers versus the European players. Could you elaborate a little bit about how does the pricing model work for Open Telekom Cloud?
It's very similar to the hyperscalers. You can consume on demand, and you can make longer commitments, 1, 2, 3 years. And it's even if you make a longer commitment, it's easily combined with on demand. So you would analyze your workload, you then secure, you would say, your base capacity for longer term to optimize the price, and then the peaks you do on demand. But it's very, very similar.
Klaus, I have a question for you as well that come in here again because you sort of were touching upon it, right? Um, but maybe we should re-emphasize it. I mean, do you see European clouds as such as a replacement for the American hyperscalers, or how do you see it?
So the short answer is no. I hope we've been clear on that. And I think, I don't know if you want to go back to the page where you have sort of the continuum of hyperscalers to open sovereign cloud. And I think you also see from some of the client examples that it's not either or, it's about finding the right answer for the particular question. It was not that one I meant. I meant, yes, thank you. So certain things you would absolutely today and tomorrow and the day after run on your chosen hyperscaler simply because that makes best sense. Full stop. But what we do see is more and more clients not only using several of the hyperscalers, but now wanting for different reasons to have a European, you say, Lego block into this hybrid and multi-cloud approach. And that's where we raise our hand and say, you now have or you've had for 10 years, but now we can tell you that Open Telekom Cloud is there as one of the options. And then again, private cloud and super sovereign cloud is available as well. So it's definitely not instead of, but in addition to.
Anders, I have one more question here because you also made the presentation of the Open Telecom Cloud. So how much functionality is there actually? I mean, can it match the hyperscaler? So how should we look at it?
I would say on the very top level, the native service that the hyperscalers are developing, we're not providing an alternative to that, and that comes back to Klaus's point. I mean, there are certain things where the hyperscalers they have done some very cool innovation in terms of base functionality. I think we are providing a very similar scope of services to the hyperscalers.
Very good. Then
and if I can add again,
please go.
Yeah, it's just, if you are considering European cloud, that's the comparison point, right? The entry point is you need something that is European. Then OTC has between a factor 3 and factor a lot more functionality than any of the competition out there. And of course, partly because it's been around for 10 years, so matured over time. And I would also say that, of course, it's a strategic move we have made and started 10 years ago that continues. But pace of investment into the platform has, of course, picked up since before or since around New Year for all the reasons we know, right? So the demand for something European has increased a lot since around January.
Okay, just looking for if there are any more questions coming in. I don't see that at the moment. Anders or Klaus, do you have any final input from your side?
Reach out to us.
Yeah, I was about to say the same, right? I mean, we have several conversations on a daily basis on this topic. So today is about setting the scene, hopefully giving you a little more insight to that. Yes, there are actually relevant European alternatives available, and obviously we're more than happy to talk about your situation specifically and how we might be able to help. Also, let you have a closer look at some of these things.
Okay. I don't really see any further questions coming in, so maybe it's just the time to wrap up. You see, there was a lot of slides. There we go. There we are. They were too far. So Thank you very much for joining our session today. It was a pleasure for us to present on this, I think, overarching theme that we all are discussing these days around sovereignty. Today's presentation has been recorded. It will be shared with you as well. And also after the event today, we will share the slides that were presented and we'll send that to you later on today. And that also gives you an opportunity to reach out to us if you want to discuss further. At least you could look forward to getting an email from my side. So by that, Anders, Klaus, and I would like to say thank you for your attention. And then I will hand it over to you, Petra, if you're still around.
Yes, thank you very much for your input, for your presentation. And I think you wrapped it up pretty well. So yeah, just thanks for participating. Thanks for handing in the questions. Thank you for the discussion. I'm looking forward to the next time. And until then, have a good day. See you.
Thank you. Likewise. Have a good day.